Hi everyone. Good morning. So I'm Pasu, and thanks for being here for our session. So this session will focus on IAM, which is Identity Access Management. So we'll quickly look into the overview of what IAM stands for and what IAM does, and Zoho Directory for Zoho ecosystem, and we'll look into a couple of enterprise case studies while going through the features of the directory and what it offers, and we'll quickly look into the feature spotlights where I'll quickly just briefly go over the new features that would be available on the application in the near future. So before we get into IAM, just want to quickly go over some challenges that the enterprise faces at the current moment, starting with fragmented identity systems. So if you're an organization or an enterprise, there are chances that your company uses a lot of application, both cloud and on premises. And as an IT admin or any person who's responsible for managing these users, it's not an easy task for you to juggle between different apps to reset password for the users or to provision users on these applications. And then we have the manual provisioning. If you don't have an automated way of provisioning these users on the systems, manual provisioning is going to be a huge task for anybody who's going to do user management. And then we have a password and login fatigue. As an end user, if you have to juggle between different cloud apps or any application for that matter, first of all, they'll have to remember different passwords to log into these systems. And if they forget the passwords, it comes down to you. You'll have to go back and reset the password for the users. Again, if you have different systems and different applications, you'll have to juggle between these apps to reset the password for them or to get their login back and get them back on track. So, what is IAM? So, IAM stands for Identity Access Management, and it's responsible for these three A's: authenticate, authorize, and audit. So, with the authentication, it's basically finding out if the user is a valid user or is a user who's supposed to access what they can or what they are supposed to access is through authorization. And then we have the auditing part of it, which is basically running reports where you can find who's using what or where they had been accessing this or what kind of access they have. So you should be in a position to audit on these information too. And why we think IAM is foundational. So we believe IAM should have a seamless adoption, which means it should work seamlessly for both the admins and the end users alike. For the admins, it needs to have an easy user interface, and it should have a smooth experience for them to use the application on a regular basis and also to onboard the users. And for the end users, it should be easy for them to get onboarded on the application and to provide and to get the access to the system that they need in a very quicker and more efficient manner. And then the security. We believe security, like identity, is the center of an enterprise security, which means the security should meet all the modern demands and it should adapt to the industry or technology upgrades. And also we believe it should be non-restrictive, which means it shouldn't be restrictive to a specific department or specific set of users and should be available like for everybody within the organization. And again, compliance. Many people feel compliance as a punishment. It shouldn't be that way. Compliance should be easy to enforce and easy to comply so that the users or the admins within the organization would feel the encouragement to comply with different security standards. And for this, we have built the Zoho Directory, which is built for the enterprise. And with Zoho Directory, we already manage user identities for more than 100 million plus users who are already on Zoho applications. And we have been building this application framework since 18 years, and it's proprietary, and we had been building from the scratch. And Zoho Directory does not only power the Zoho apps, but also our sister applications from Manage Engine and Trainer Central, Control, and the ULA browser, which was recently launched. So we'll quickly look into Zoho Directory for Zoho apps and what it does. So just give you a brief information about it. The Zoho Directory acts as an identity, a source of truth for all the Zoho applications, and it's a centralized place for all the user management. And using Zoho Directory, you'd be able to enforce security policies for the users and within your organization. And with the Zoho Directory, you also have application management through which you can provide access or provision users to different applications, not only for Zoho apps, but also for the other systems outside the Zoho applications or Zoho ecosystem. And Zoho Directory also provides access to reports and audit trials, using which you'd be able to run varieties of reports. And this can also be shared with your other SIEM solutions, where you can run your own reports using those solutions too. And not only that, Directory offers much more features than what we just saw. So we'll quickly go over a couple of enterprise case studies where I'll walk you through some features that we offer in the Zoho Directory. So we'll consider these three scenarios while we take a look at all these case studies. So the scenarios I'd like to start with is integrate directory with other directory services. And the second scenario is migrating to Zoho Directory as an identity provider. And the third scenario that I'd like to discuss is adopting Zoho Directory as the first IDP. So these are three different scenarios that we like recently had the Zoho Directory implemented for in different organizations. Starting with the first organization, which needs to integrate Zoho Directory with their existing IDP system. So the first case study is about a telecom giant. This is a very big telecom company, and they had 6,000 users on their Zoho CRM, and they wanted to seamlessly onboard users to the CRM application from their AWS. So AWS is their IDP service. So basically, we had to connect with AWS to migrate the users to the Zoho directory. And the export that we got from the AWS was not formatted or not cleansed, so that it can be imported into directory. So we use Zoho data prep to revamp the data that we got from the AWS. We cleansed the data and imported into Zoho directory. And then we used conditional assignment option that we'll talk about in a bit, and then assign those users access to Zoho CRM application. So we'll quickly link it to how to import users from an external directory store. So Zoho Directory offers varieties of Zoho stores or integration out of the box for both on-premise and the cloud systems. So these IDP can be of various varieties coming from HR applications or external IDPs, or which is identity providers, or any other application or any other directory for that matter. And if you don't find your directory here on this list, we also provide you a custom integration that supports both SEIM or API integration. So if you don't find something available out of the box, do not worry. We also provide you a custom option to integrate with these directory services. And how to import or sync users from your on-premise LDAP or on-premise Active Directory. So Directory offers a sync tool that you can install on one of the computers or servers within the organization. And this tool would be responsible for syncing your Active Directory users and then pushing that information up to the cloud. And you can have this application configured to run on a regular basis. So it does sync all the user information, the directory information, the passwords, and you can also schedule the sync to happen automatically on the same tool. And the second scenario, the second company or second case study we have under the same scenario is a global agribusiness who had varieties of Zoho applications, and they wanted to do like criteria-based imports, dynamic group creation, and they had around 12,000 users spread across 16 different Active Directory instances. And they also need a custom authentication for the single sign-on to their Zoho applications and also to the other apps. So here's a quick flow of this the requirement here. So they had like 16 Active Directory instances that we had to sync users from to the Zoho directory, and from there we used the conditional assignment option to automatically assign users from the Zoho directory to different groups within the directory that we created, and then enable single sign-on for these users for all those Zoho applications that fall under the group. And then we enable custom authentication through single sign-on, where the Microsoft Active Directory acted as an identity provider, and then we enable custom authentication for these users using Microsoft login. So we'll quickly look into how we did this or how to assign users based on criteria. So we have this option called a conditional assignment, where you can create different conditions based on which the users needs to be provided roles or access to different applications. So these conditions can be based on different information of the users, like based on the department, or based on the location, or even based on the role that they perform within the organization. Say, for example, you have managers who you need to provide more access to an application. You can provide them with an elevated permission, and then say if somebody has a role name manager, then give them an elevated permission on a specific application. And similarly, if a user falls under a sales department, and if they need access to the CRM application, you can say a department is sales, then provide them access to the CRM application with a certain role or a profile. Can Zoho applications have single sign-on with anything other than Zoho itself? Yes. Zoho has out of the box integration for um, other identity providers like Microsoft, Google, Okta. So you can use one of these, or even we provide custom option. So in case if you have your custom IDP, you can also integrate directly with one of these IDPs. That way you don't have to have the users remember another set of username and password to log into your systems. All they have to do is just try to access a Zoho application. That should redirect them automatically to the Microsoft login page or a Google login page or an Okta. Once the authentication is completed, they would be logged into the Zoho apps automatically. The second scenario that I want to discuss is migrating from another IDP to Zoho Directory. So in this case, this is for a government organization where they were using a local mail server and they wanted to move to Zoho Workspace. And the key challenge that we had here was the mail server that they had was on premises. And when we started this migration, they wanted, since there was a directory tied with that mail solution too, they wanted to move the entire mailbox users and also the directory users to Zoho Directory. So again, we had to follow this. So we exported all the users from the on-premise directory as a CSV on an Excel sheet, and then we imported them into Zoho Directory, where we used conditional assignment to provide access to just 40,000 users out of 100,000 users to Zoho Workspace. And then we had the remaining 100,000 users provided access to different on-premise applications that the company was using. And then we enable single sign-on for the users using like one of these services. And since the customer was using an on-premise application, we set up a custom single sign-on for the users to enable single sign-on based on their local provider. So single sign-on provides access for the users to log in using their existing identity provider. So you can choose between one of these identity providers, or you have an option to create your own custom identity providers within directory. And this next scenario is where we had a customer who wanted to use Zoho Directory as their primary identity provider. And this is for a consumer electronics company in India where they didn't have an identity provider for the organization at all. So this was going to be their first identity provider. And along with that, they also had a requirement for the single sign-on for other applications other than the Zoho apps, and also they wanted single sign-on for the laptops and the Wi-Fi network within the environment. So this is a quick overview. So the customer was using an app called Grey HR, which is an HRMS application, where they wanted to sync the users from that application to Zoho Directory. So we had around 800 users, and these users had to be assigned to different applications or provided access to different applications using conditional assignment. And we also had enabled single sign-on for them on all these applications using Zoho Directory. And along with that, they also wanted to do device authentication. And again, they had all the three platform of devices within the organization. So they had Mac, Linux, and Windows, where we had to provide them device authentication using Zoho Directory. And we also had a custom, a Wi-Fi authentication requirement where we enable Cloud Radius for this application. So Cloud Radius is a feature that we are currently working on, and it's currently in a beta stage. So if you have a requirement for a Cloud Radius integration for authenticating your Wi-Fi networks, we can have the team enable the closed beta for you guys. So starting with the app catalog. So when we spoke about providing access to all the applications within the organization, you have options to choose from over 500 applications, both cloud and on-premise, for the employees to provide access to. and you can choose these applications from app catalog. So it's not going to be a tedious or a complicated process. All you have to do is just search for the application that you're using and just click on add, and that application will be added to your list of apps. And from there you can start provisioning your users, and you can also start providing access for the users to these applications right on the same window. And again, this list is not restricted to just those 500 plus applications. If you're not able to find something here on this list, feel free to get in touch with us and we'll be able to help you set up a custom application here on the system. And then the provisioning. After adding the application to the apps list under the directory, you have an option to provision users to the application. So the provisioning can happen right on the same interface, where you can choose to control the complete employee lifecycle from within the same window. So here, for example, we took the Jira application here, where we have an option to set the Jira as one of the apps, and then you can start adding your users to this application based on different criteria. And then you can do field mapping, where you can choose the department and some other information to be mapped for this application. And other than that, you can also choose when a user is assigned to this application, then it will be created. When you add a new user on directory for this application, the user will also be created in Jira. And when you update the user profile in directory, the user profile will also be updated in Jira. So which means if somebody is switching department, or maybe if somebody is moving from a department to another and they need an elevated permission, you don't even have to log into Jira. All you have to do is just change their department here on the directory, which will in turn automatically update their permissions on whatever application you have, depending on the rules or the provisioning configuration that we have for that particular app. And this also means if you disable any users, it will also disable them in Jira. So this can again be like a security advantage. So you don't have to get into each and every application, disable a user, and then make sure you like really disable them or they still have access to the application. So it's going to be just a single place where you can manage everything for both Zoho and non-Zoho applications. And this is another other example for provisioning. So this is the window, like an overview of what you would see when you have provisioned users to any application. And then this is something that came in recently for the Zoho directory, where this also takes care of device authentication, which means the users needs to just remember one username and password. That's their Zoho accounts login, and they can log in to their computers with a Zoho account too. So Zoho Directory now offers device authentication. So the users can use their Zoho account to log in to their laptops or computers, and this works on all the three platforms. So that works on Windows, Linux, and Mac. And it's easy to onboard the users too. So we have the device management option, where you can just simply click on enroll devices, and you can just start enrolling the devices that you recently purchased. Or if you already have a device that the user is using, you can also push these to those devices, where you can choose to do this using an agent. So you can choose between an automated deployment or manual deployment, where if you choose automated deployment, you can choose like how this needs to be deployed, and using a script or a plist. Or if you wanted to go with a manual deployment, it's just pretty straightforward. Double click on it, and then it installs the agent, and then it starts doing the device management part. And once the directory is installed on their devices, they can choose to reset their passwords right from within the same window. And they also have an option to request for admin access if required. So for example, a user wants to install a new software, or they need some elevated permission temporarily, they can request for an admin access right from that same pop-up. And this would be like a temporary admin access, say for like 15 minutes or 30 minutes of the time, depending on how you configure it. So the users can have that admin access, and they can choose to do whatever they have to do within that time period. And you also have an option to keep the passwords of the user in sync with your Zoho accounts. And this is the radius option. Um, we use this option to integrate with your cloud radius server, where you can have this cloud server used to authenticate the users to use your Wi-Fi logins. So this is currently in beta, and this is coming soon. So if you want to give it a try, feel free to drop an email to our team, and they'll be able to provide you access with that. And this is, I mean, we did this for the customer that we spoke about, was a consumer electronics. So we set up this cloud ready server for them, and they were able to authenticate their users to their Wi-Fi, enterprise Wi-Fi network using just their Zoho username and password. So security for the modern age, basically the new features that are going to come up on the directory application. So the first option is bringing your own key. So bringing your own key adds an additional layer of security to the user accounts that you manage, which means even Zoho cannot read any of this information without the key that you provide to the application. So you need your key to access your data, which adds an extra layer of security to the user information. And then we have conditional access, which is another feature that's going to come up soon. So you can define criteria based on controls for your organization. So you can configure these conditions based on a specific day or time. So if you want these permissions to change, or if you have certain conditions for this for the end users, you can choose to define conditions where you can say the users need to be able to access certain applications, or certain access needs to be provided during a certain day of a week or certain hours of a day, and they should be able to access it only on certain computers or certain platform types. Need to choose certain authentication methods. So we have different things that you can configure within the organization under the security settings. And these are a couple of security compliances or security certifications that we have for the Zoho directory. So just to quickly go over what we discussed, the scalable. So the directory is designed to scale, and so it's enterprise ready. So you can like manage your users for any Zoho applications and non-Zoho applications, and it's already out of the box available for Zoho One customers. And it's free to use if you already have Zoho One, and you already will be using Zoho directory. And it's been in the development for like 18 plus years with our own proprietary IAM framework, and we already have 100 million plus users whose credentials are being managed on the directory application, and it's already powering Zoho One, and it's secure to use, and it's built on the latest cloud standards, and it also provides the same security guarantee that Zoho provides. And again, it's simple to use, simple to roll out in the organization, and also it's seamless for the migration if you're migrating from a different directory services or different IDP. And we also have a dedicated integration support available in the product team. So if at all you need integration support for any application that's not available out of the box, or any customer integration for IDPs or for security or authentication, feel free to get in touch with the team, and they'll be able to help you with the integrations. I think, yeah, that's it. Thank you all for your time.